Hey guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever applies to you. Welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Julia. I'm a contemporary singing specialist based in Australia, and today I'm reacting to Aurora performing her song It Happened Quiet. Now, I haven't heard Aurora before, but I'm very keen to see why you guys were so adamant that I react to her. So let's just dive right on in and see what happens.
Ice blue and hollow as it rains against their will, feathers falling out of a pillow, as if time is standing still, and I can't remember much more, but I know it happened quiet, so quiet. Words falling out through the window, all that remains is a silent call. Is the earth colored red as I land like a flower on the meadow? Oh, love is wild.
Oh my gosh. Her voice is stunning. It's hitting me hard with the folk, indie, alternative kind of vibes. It's really giving me that feeling. Even the way that she approaches some of her singing with the little bit of vibrato, she's using a tiny little yodel. It's not like a full yodel, but it's a tiny little one that's letting her float through her phrases. And I'm particularly fond of how she's utilizing this length and a dominant sound to move through her range. It means she's got a lot of subtle dynamic changes going on in her singing without forfeiting too much of her core sound. So instead of belting as she's going up through her range, she's lengthening gradually into her second register until we get that beautiful like timbre change at the end of what I believe is the chorus, where it becomes a little more breathy. But my whole soul is almost like it's sighing through this song with her. That's we must continue.
You fell apart like a stone can be broken into sand.
Okay, interesting. I just want to look at that little section. She is almost being microtonal in how she approaches her phrase. Meanwhile, the person who's singing her like second vocal line, who is, by the way, very, very solid herself, beautiful, balanced, bright sound going on underneath, which fits beautifully with what Aurora is actually doing with her voice, because so far Aurora hasn't brought like a belty, mass heavy quality into her singing, which means if her second vocalist was too powerful, too strong, too warm, too dark, it might not mesh together as nicely. But so far, beautiful balance between the two vocalists. But I thought it was interesting how much of a speech approach Aurora took in that particular section, because it's almost like she's not staying on any one pitch. It's almost like she's sliding off these words. Let's see if you can hear it yourselves.
Like a stone can be broken into sand.
Yeah. So it's like she's got the general gist of where the pitch is, but she's sliding through it just ever so slightly in a way that makes it seem a little more conversational, a little more speech-like. It's kind of cool actually with that backing vocal happening under it. So let's just keep going.
A thousand pieces spread across a crying land, and you can't remember that day, but you know it happened quiet, so quiet. Words falling out
Okay, so I was gonna pause and then I was like, no, let's just keep going. Let's just see what happens. Okay, musically, at the moment, I'm really loving the form of this song and how she's actually written it is really, really cool. I love the lyric, how there's so much imagery in it. It really paints that picture for you using colors like the color red, using that idea of, I think it was, did she say feathers from a pillow? Which makes me almost think of this like falling moment, like things falling in slow mo, like a snapshot of a particular moment in time, which is really cool, like visually to be picturing that as she's singing this. I can't decide whether the form is 6/8 or 12/8. I would have to go back and re-listen to where her phrasing is falling. Because of the speed at which she's moving through her phrases, I'm leaning perhaps a little more towards 12/8, just because basically the only reason you would choose a 12/8 over 6/8 is if the melodic phrase that was going over the top of it, where it starts and where it ends and where it emphasizes. So at the moment, it could maybe go either way. The general gist, though, is that you have this quaver pulse that's going through it. And to be quite honest, I would probably count it in my head, even if it was a 12/8, as a 6/8, just because if you're staying on top of a certain time signature and it sort of exceeds maybe 6 or 7 or 8, then it can become a little bit mouthy or mentally a little bit cumbersome to have to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Like to get all the way up to 12, it's a hell of a lot easier just to be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But that being said, where her phrasing is landing because it's a little bit slower is making me lean perhaps a little more to the 12/8. It's not really a big deal. She's got those quaver pulses moving, and that is what's giving us the feel of the music, which to me, anything with that like quaver pulse movement through it from what the guitar is doing, that gives me a very almost floaty, time's not suspended because it's moving evenly, but it's like it never fully sets down completely. It might land, but then it's immediately moving on to the next one. It gives me the sense of momentum through the song, which I really like 6/8 and 12/8 for. Obviously, if a 12/8 is like a shuffle, it's not going to be quite the same. But in your indie folk music, you will also find it a little bit more than, say, your modern pop, what you might hear on the radio. But I digress. It's a wonderful time signature. I quite like it, despite how simple it may seem. It gives me a feeling that, your common time signatures might not necessarily give me. So I'm really enjoying the time signature. I'm really enjoying how connected her phrases are. She's really using that vowel to get through there. And again, that length and a dominant sound mixing up into more of a second register sound as she ascends, as opposed to going for a belt. So this is beautiful.
Why? Are your dreams as dead as they seem? Are your dreams as dead as they seem? Don't you speak over my voice. I will return from the shadows and I bleed in your bed. Turn it red like the ground outside your window. Oh, love is wild. Love is wild. Love is wild.
Oh. That was some seriously beautiful singing, quality singing as well. If you were to have a vocal role model, I would definitely be putting her on your list if you like this style of music, because sometimes I do think that there are certain indie alternative singers who, in order to achieve like a breathy, disconnected sound, they literally disconnect from their body. Whereas if we witness what she just did then, and albeit it could be a little off putting if you don't particularly like this specific thing that she's doing, but one of the things that she's doing is she's moving with her body a lot. She's using her hands. they're always in this like flowy motion as well, which I think is fantastic because as a singer, your brain responds fairly well to gesture. So if you're struggling to get something to be flowy, try moving your body in a way that is flowy, and that might help you connect through that phrase a little easier. I must admit, there are times where her facial expressions and her body movements, it almost seems like she's in a different dimension. And sometimes that can be off putting from an audience perspective to be like, it's like she's not connected here with us. She's looking into her own little world. But the feeling that I get from Aurora when I watch this is she might be connecting with her own little world and revisiting her memories or whatever situation it was that made her write this particular song. But it makes me curious to see what it is that she's like mentally or physically exploring, if that makes sense. Her body is definitely moving with the movement of the piece. Her facial expressions change with the piece. It's like she's in that moment again. It's really cool to watch. And to me, I don't personally find this style of performance alienating as an audience member because I'm quite drawn to seeing where she's going to go musically and vocally just because she's using musical and vocal elements that I really appreciate as a listener, if that makes sense. So it makes me more likely to want to be pulled into her world, whereas sometimes how we perform might be a little too alienating from an audience perspective if we go too far in this particular direction. And it's almost like you're just performing for yourself, and the audience might not feel as included in your musical journey, depending on what it is that you're doing. So I do think she balanced that nicely. Here, there was just enough to make me curious. Like, what is she thinking about? What is she picturing? It makes her seem more unique as well as a performer because of how genuine it seems. It's almost like she can't help herself but also get lulled into what's happening, and it makes me want to get lulled into it as well. So I really enjoyed this performance. One of the musical elements that I did enjoy, and I know that it's a really easy thing to do, it's not overly complicated. I'm just going to turn the piano on. Was this chord change that she did going from a minor to a major. See if I can find it.
And I can't remember much more, but I know it happened.
Beautiful. So that minor to major change, it just musically keeps me really interested as well. I just love the kind of music that uses those changes. And I know it's really, really simple. All you have happening is going from that minor to that major change. So all that is happening is the third is just moving up a semitone. That's all it is. That's the only difference between a major and a minor sound. That third is really, really critical for your chord quality. So if that third changes, we go from minor up to the major. So having that chord change there, it just really does like feel like my soul is lifted. I feel so at ease after having listened to this. Like just feel really calm and peaceful actually. And I think it's because her delivery was absolutely beautiful, just truly good singing. Loved the little unique vocal textures that she chose to do. So for example, she would use a little bit of vibrato at the ends of her phrases, but not all the time. And often it would be almost like a half vibrato. Like it's not very, very heavy with clearly defined oscillations. It's almost like it's there and then it just fades. So I liked that. I thought it was stylistically super appropriate. Again, those little yodels that she uses, just they sound so perfect for this kind of music. So I really, really enjoyed this performance, guys. I feel so mellow. I liked her imagery, so her choice of things that we can actually imagine in our minds as opposed to it just being like feeling based. So imagery, the use of color in her lyric was really, really cool. Overall, it was just a super enjoyable performance, and I could honestly go nap right now because I'm just so chilled out. So I'll definitely be checking out a little bit more of her music because I'm keen to see what else she brings, both as a singer and as a songwriter, because I loved her vocal choices in this. Really liked the song itself. Anyways, that is it for me today, guys. I hope that you enjoyed that one. If you did, be sure to give it a like, click the subscribe button and the bell notification beside it. If you do want notifications, make sure that you hit the all after clicking the bell notification little symbol, because otherwise YouTube just won't send you anything. It just won't let you know when I upload a new video. So if you do want to know that, make sure that all is selected when you click that bell icon. As usual, I hope you're staying safe. I hope you are staying healthy, and I will see you next time. Bye.
But you know it happened quiet, so quiet.